Hello and welcome to the world of astronomy. This is Akashveer and you're listening to the Fact Sci Guy. Today I will tell you about 20 interesting facts about nebulae. Have you ever seen or thought about it? What is a nebula? A nebula is a Latin word which means cloud, but when we are discussing about the universe, we are not talking about average clouds that we see during rainy season. Nebulae, in context of universe, are interstellar clouds that are made of not of water but of plasma, helium, hydrogen and dust. Let us discuss the points. Point number 1. Nebulae are usually formed by gravitational collapse of gases in the interstellar medium. The particles that collapse have their own gravitational attraction and they clump together to form these clouds. Point number 2. Nebulae are ginormous. They may stretch over hundreds of light years across. A light year is essentially the distance that light can travel in 1 year. Here is a quick calculation. 1 year is 31,536,000 seconds. Light covers a distance of 300,000 kilometers in a second. Therefore, in 1 year, light is capable of traveling 31,536,000 times 300,000 kilometers. That is 9,460,800,000,000 kilometers. Let us trivially assume that we have a nebula in form of a perfect circle. So the maximum distance between two extreme points of the nebula will be its diameter. Even if our assumed circular nebula stretches over 1 light year across, then the diameter of the nebula will be 9,460,800,000,000 kilometers. So imagine how big a nebula can be that stretches hundreds of light years across. Point number 3. Nebulae are often referred to as star nurseries of the universe because stars often form inside the nebulae. We know that nebulae are ginormous, but how do they look like? Nebulae have myriads of shapes. Some look like a horse head, some look like a crab, some like a butterfly, and some look like cat's eye. We know that stars can form inside nebulae, but how? According to scientists, gas and dust inside these nebulae squash together under their own gravitational pull. As a result, the clouds start contracting and get denser. The denser they become, the hotter they get. Eventually, they become so hot that hydrogen present in them gets ignited and new stars come to life. Point number 6. When a star forms inside a nebula, ultraviolet radiations are emitted and entire nebula is lit up, resulting in what is known as emission nebulae. Emission nebulae are usually pink or red in color because of the sizzling hot particle rays that can have other colors. Point number 7. The Orion constellation that we see has an emission nebula known as Orion Nebula. Point number 8. Apart from emission nebula, we have other types of nebula known as the reflection nebulae. They are so named because they do not emit their own light. They only reflect the light from the nearby stars. Reflection nebulae appear blue in color. Point number 9. An interesting phenomenon is that presence of reflection nebula means the presence of an emission nebula somewhere close. Point number 10. The Orion constellation also has a reflection nebula which is known as witch head reflection nebula because it looks like the head of a witch from the side. Point number 11. We have another type of nebula known as planetary nebulae. Don't be deceived by the name. Planetary nebulae have nothing to do with planets. A planetary nebula forms when a star similar to the size of our Sun runs out of hydrogen fuel in the core, and the hydrogen in the outer shell starts fusing. As a result, the star starts to expand and becomes a red giant. Sometimes later, the core of the red giant is heated so much that it starts fusing helium atoms that were formed because of hydrogen fusion in the core. Eventually, when the helium atom is also used up, the star becomes very unstable. This is when the outer layer of the star is ejected, leaving behind the core, which is then known as white dwarf. And this white dwarf still emits radiation. These radiations ionize the gas atoms present in the surrounding, leading to spectacularly colorful displays known as planetary nebula. Point number 12. We have Supernova Remnant. Enormously big stars eventually explode, shooting out matter in every possible direction, and these ejected materials eventually form a nebula. A classic example of a supernova remnant is the Crab Nebula. Point number 13. The coolest place to naturally exist in our universe is the Boomerang Nebula. It is also known as the by.The Nebula. It was first observed in 1980 by two astronomers using Anglo-Australian telescope from Siding Spring Observatory. They failed to get a proper view and observed a slight asymmetry in the lobes of the nebula and hence named it Boomerang Nebula. Later in 1998, the Hubble Space Telescope observed the proper symmetry of the nebula, which looks very much like an hourglass. The temperature of the nebula is minus 272 degrees Celsius, which is only 1 degree above the absolute zero. Point number 14. The famous Eagle Nebula has structures known as pillars of creation, because those pillar-like structures give birth to new stars. The Eagle Nebula is also known as Star Queen Nebula and is located in Serpens constellation. Point number 15. We have something known as dark nebula. They are so called because the interstellar clouds are so dense that they block any light from background stars and/or reflection nebulae. Dark nebulae can be observed against the backdrop of light. Dark nebulae are capable of blocking light because the dust particles, which are of the size of submicrometer, and coats of frozen nitrogen and carbon monoxide that can block light at visible wavelengths. This is because dark nebulae are invisible without the backdrop of light, such as Milky Way. It never means that they are not important. They can give birth to planets, stars, and moons, etc. Great Rift and Coal-Sack Nebula are two examples of dark nebulae that are visible to naked eyes as they appear as darker patches against the white, bright background of our Milky Way. Point number 16. About 5 billion years from now, our Sun will become a nebula. Point number 17. The nebula closest to Earth is the Orion Nebula, which is at a distance of 1,300 light years from us. The nebula stretches to a distance of 25 light years. Point number 18. Until 1920s, scientists used to classify distant galaxies as nebulae. Point number 19. Some nebulae may have parts of other nebulae inside them. A typical example is the Gum Nebula, which contains the Vela Nebula inside it. Point number 20. Nebulae outside the Milky Way are referred to as extragalactic nebulae. Thank you very much. If you want some more information related to astronomy and physics, stay tuned. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Take care.